Here with another live broadcast from Beer Cartel HQ in Sydney, Australia. If you're tuning in, thanks very much, and you can always rewatch these in the Facebook feed afterwards if you have missed the live broadcast. So this week, pretty busy. We've had quite a lot of things happening. We've had new flooring installed in store. All our shelves are back in store now, so if you did come in on Tuesday when we were putting those in, we were closed for a little period and our shelves were quite bare and some of them weren't even existent in the shop. They're now all back in. Shop's looking a lot better. We've still got a few tweaks that we'll do to the shop over the next little while to, lift it up, give it a bit of a facelift. But if you're tuning in, this is Thursday's post where I go through some of the new beers that we've received over the last week. And we had quite a lot of sort of US beers land. So I go through a couple of those, and also German beer, which is quite limited in its release and the first time I've ever seen it come into Australia. If you've already seen what the beers are, you may have seen that we put out a newsletter earlier today, so you might have had that in your inbox and you've gotten a bit of a preemptive, alert as to what the new beers are. If you're not on a newsletter database, I highly recommend that you do get onto it. At the moment, if you go to our website, on the homepage banner, there's a link and there's access to $650 worth of craft beer vouchers. So I talked about these last week. They're still available. We'll be doing this ongoing until the end of the year. But if you sign up, it's an easy way. You can go to either the banner on the homepage or we'll have a link at the bottom of this post that'll show you where you can get access to that. So just by signing up, not only will you get access and knowledge of all the latest beers that come in store firsthand, but you'll also get over $650 worth of craft beer vouchers to use at over 40 different participating breweries, craft beer pubs and pubs around Australia. So highly worthwhile doing that and definitely recommend it. This week, so we've gotten some new beers from Red Hook, got a couple of new beers from Ballast Point as well. We've got the new Game of Thrones beer that I will go through, and Schlenkerla out of Germany we've got one of their new beers as well. And for the first time, we've got Belching Beaver. So we've got two milk stouts from those guys. I will go through their peanut butter milk stout in a second. But the first beer I wanted to go through is the Schlenkerla. So this is their Fasten beer. So Schlenkerla, some of you really like these beers because I know that we do sell out very quickly when we get these beers in. They make like a Marzen, an Urbock, and they also make a lager. Interesting, these guys do Rausch beers or smoked beers and they do them very, very well. So they've been in operation for a few centuries. A couple of things that are interesting about this beer. This is their Fasten beer. It's the very first time I've ever seen it in Australia. So their Marzen and their Urbock and their lager, we get occasionally. Every couple of months we'll have them in. We usually always have one or two of them in stock, but they can be quite limited. So these guys are based in Bramberg, which is in between, if you know where Frankfurt is, between Frankfurt and the Czech border. So that from Frankfurt east to the Czech border, they're about halfway in distance from there, and they do smoked beers, as I mentioned, and all their beers except their lager actually use smoked malts. Now their lager has got a very faint hint of smokiness, and the interesting thing with that, I don't think we've actually got any in stock, but when we do, I highly recommend you do try it. It actually gets its residual smokiness by the brewing equipment that it's brewed on. So the smoke kind of gets impregnated into the brewing equipment, and then when they brew their lager, they don't use any smoked malts whatsoever, but it does get a slight hint of smokiness, and that is 100% from the residual smoke based on the brewing equipment that is used for brewing. But this is their Fasten beer. So their Fasten beer is actually released for Lent. So it's supposed to, it's released, Ash Wednesday to Easter, so the 40 days of Lent. Obviously we're getting it after that because that's when it's released in Europe, in Germany. And traditionally this beer only ever makes it to parts of Germany, US and other parts of Europe. And as I said, this is the first time I've seen it in Australia. $9.50 on the bottle, which I think makes it very, very good value. It's 500 mils, 5.5%. And the Fasten beer, the bit of history. So obviously during Lent, you're supposed to fast. And I'm going to refer to my sheet here because my Latin, which is what I think it is, isn't the best in memory. But this says, the Lent beer was released in accordance with the principle liquida non frangunt ignum. If that's the correct way, I'm very happy with that. If it's not, then I apologise to those that do speak Latin, which means liquids do not break the fast. So the idea is that if you have one of these, it doesn't actually break the fasting that you're having. And the monks in the Middle Age monasteries would brew a stronger, more nurturing beer for the time of Lent to stay in shape for daily labour. So that's the story behind that. And another interesting little fact, you might see on that bottle, there's a little man that's down in the corner there, a little red man with a cane. So that is actually in honour of one of the owners of the brewery. So the brewery's been going for a number of centuries. It's I think since the 1300s is when the first sort of brewing is written about on the actual site of it, where the modern day brewery is. But the date is in 1877, a guy by the name of Andreas Grasser, he became the owner, and he had a bit of a handicap, and he moved his arms a bit funny. And Schlenkern means to swing or dangle. And the locals then kind of started calling it Schlenkerla because of the owner and his kind of swinging arms and stuff. And it kind of stuck since then. So for a few centuries, it's been known as Schlenkerla. It continues to be known as Schlenkerla, and they are synonymous with smoked beers. So if you like smoked beers, bit of bacon, bit of smokiness, that's the Lent beer. We've got a few cases of that in stock. But yeah, highly recommend that one, and really good value. The next beer, so this is Belching Beaver. This is their peanut butter milk stout. We also received their milk stout. So Belching Beaver, they're based in California, between San Diego and Los Angeles. I think it's actually considered as North San Diego County. They've been going since about 2012. And again, another interesting story with these guys. Like many breweries, the guy's a home brewer. He decides that he'd like to one day take his home brewing to commercial brewing. And the guy's name is Tom. And he started sort of looking at the figures, and it never really stacked up for him. He sort of couldn't really make the numbers work at different sites that he was looking at. He also looked at getting into like a pizza and beer kind of place, and he could never really make it work. Anyway, he was having beers at Port Brewing one day, and he thought, stuff it, you know what, I'm going to give this a crack. And he decided that he was going to go ahead and start business plan and start going ahead with building his brewery and seeing his dream out. And he used to do a lot of home brewing with a guy called Troy. Troy used to brew at Coronado Brewing. And one day they were playing poker, because they played poker and brewed beers. Those two things go together. And he said to Troy, he said, how would you like to actually do your own thing? And from that day, Troy said, okay, not a problem. We'll just start brewing for you. And that's where the brewery actually started. He had an architect friend who was making wine with him. So he was a brewer and a winemaker. And he said, you still looking to open your brewery? Tom said, yep. He said, would you like a partner? Tom said, yep, fine, let's go ahead. So the three of them started Belching Brewery in 2012, and that is their peanut butter milk stout. This has got some rolled oats in it and some lactose for the sweetness. And in terms of the flavouring, all it says on the back is natural flavour. So I imagine that they have somehow gotten some natural flavour from peanut butter. And reading some of the reviews, because I haven't had it because it's only just come in this week, if you have been in the US and you've had some Reese's Pieces peanut butter cups, they're like a little cup of milk chocolate. Inside they've got like a bit of peanut butter. People have reviewed it tasting like liquid Reese's Pieces peanut butter cups. This one is $31 on the bottle, and the brewers also recommend that it would make a very, very good vanilla ice cream float or spider, depending on how you call it. So that's maybe one. I know there's a few people out there that do ice cream and beer floats. So if you're looking to do one, I'd say this would be a pretty interesting one to do it with. So that's the Belching Beaver peanut butter milk stout. And the last beer I'm just going to highlight today is the Game of Thrones. This is their Series 6. It's called Seven Kingdoms. So this is brewed by Ommegang. So Ommegang is an American brewery based in New York State. They're very traditionally known for their Belgian strong ales, and so we've had some of those strong ales in the past. I think we might still have a couple on hand, but this one's kind of deviated from the Belgian style. The last one, the number 5, was a saison, and this is the hoppy wheat ale. So this is, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, we do sell a few of these $36 odd on the bottle, 750 mils. And yeah, a bit of a collector's piece for those that do watch Game of Thrones. So they're the three beers that kind of stand out for me this week. The Schlenkerla Lent beer, or the Fasten beer, the Peanut Butter Milk Stout, and the Game of Thrones from Ommegang are the three beers. And another quick reminder, if you are wanting to join the either the monthly beer club, we've got a 6-pack, 12-pack and a 24-pack in the monthly beer club. You've got till midnight tonight Sydney time to receive the July pack. And if you're wanting the expert pack as well, it's much the same. If you subscribe by midnight tonight Sydney time, you'll also get the next quarter, which is the July quarter. So highly recommend that if you're looking at an easy way to get access to beers. We've got subscribers all around the country. And we send out a bunch of good beers, and those are being packed up at the moment. The 6, 12 and 24 packs will be dispatched starting next week, and then the 16 pack, which is the quarterly expert pack, which is the higher end pack, more expensive but some higher end beers in there, will be shipped out about middle of the month. Between the 15th and the 20th is when we look to get those out. So as always, you can subscribe to these videos so you get notification as soon as I start broadcasting. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter to get your $650 worth. If you're already subscribed, you can still access those. You just have to put your email address in there again and then just refer it on to a friend. There'll be some prompts there in terms of how to actually do it, but you can be an existing subscriber and still access those. And then again, those are the three beers, all available in-store and online. And if you do drop in, you should see a nicer looking shop with the little facelift that we're giving it at the moment. Any questions, pop them in the comment box below. And thanks again for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of your week. Cheers.